to the Dank Rebellion. Tonight we're hanging out with local artist Raine Curole. This is part 1, The Weight of Fate.
I like it.
Man, I like it.
Like that, me.
I like it. My name's Summer Blanchard.
Oh.
Can I get sued for saying Summer Blanchard's name?
No, because you could just be talking about the
Any
actual,
Summer Blanchard?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Or the actual season of summer.
Summer
of Blanchard.
I don't want a season of that shit.
Or it could be some kind of a action of innuendo, Summer Blanchard.
Yeah. So you could say it. That's fine.
So, if you suck dick so hard that your family is hurt by it, that's the act of a Summer Blanchard.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I want to have my dick sucked
That's
so hard that it hurts me.
Well, lucky for you, you live at a place that there's many people who enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
So there's a third person in the studio tonight, and I'm sure y'all wondering who the fuck it is. It's very cool to have somebody in the studio that has no idea who we are, but we're a fan of theirs. We have Raine Curole, local artist. It's good to have you here, dude.
Hell yeah, brother.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot.
Super stoked. I love your shit, man. I follow you on the gram, and I love your artwork. It's a very inspiring thing to see somebody locally on the bayou doing what you're doing, and I'm not an artsy person. It's very few things that I see that catch my eye, and I like it. I like the darker side of art. If I see like my mother-in-law, for instance, right? She's a local artist. She's passed on. I have some of her paintings that I put up on Instagram and on Facebook, just because she was a very good artist when it came to swamp scenes and things of that nature. But she would do like a magnolia, and yeah, it looked like a magnolia, and it was cool.
Very traditional.
I was like, okay. Yeah. Like, I'm not saying it was the easiest thing to do, and I'm not downplaying it at all, but that's just to say I would go to... when you go to New Orleans, I think it's Thomas Kincaid, they have that little walkway art gallery.
Oh, yeah.
It's cool. I dig it, but
a little
it's...
candy.
Yeah.
It's a little bit too much eye candy.
Yeah, it's just not something I dig.
Yeah.
But what would you say is like an overall feeling or style you go for?
I think it's like some form of these things that feel, I guess, like kind of isolated and have some form of existential weight, I guess, to them, or like but at the same time playing around with I guess ideas that are mythological mixed with I guess even so much pop culturally, like comic based to a degree.
Yeah, is it odd that some of the shit that I look at, that like your darker stuff, just it makes me laugh?
No, it's like I think I try to make some weird.
There was this one thing that it looked like a face eating. I don't even know, but I was like, it was just fun. It just struck me as funny.
It's good for me.
No, I think there's definitely some stuff that I like agree have like some tongue in cheek humor in there. Like it's almost like, look at these dudes, or like look at this thing, and then it's like you almost like. You're almost as repulsed as you are. You want to make friends with them to a degree. Like, that's kind of an endearing factor, along with this, like, kind of like.
There's a trait to each one of
It's
these
like
subjects.
how old girl was with Quasimodo. She was like, "Dude, that hump, I just want to ride that."
Well, that's like, and I would think that that's honestly like an inspiration. When I was a kid, I had seen like the old Hunchback of Notre Dame in like black and white.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
and just like that. That aspect of how people treated him always, I guess I was always very empathetic to the mob.
Not thinking that it only took the right person to love him.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, he sacrificed everything.
Which also, to be completely honest, it may be that 1 in a billionth person, and some people may never find that, but that just goes to show that everybody in some way, shape, or form can and does inspire someone else, whether they believe it or not.
And yeah, and I think it's also based on the fact of individuality. I think, Quasimodo and Esmeralda were like, you could both say like, couldn't be anything but themselves. And I guess that's why they were drawn to each other in that respect. But it was like, things like that, things like The Elephant Man, watching David Lynch's, I remember seeing that early on and like really being taken by it. Like it was, And I've always been enamored by like his story. You know, Jonathan Merrick. He's an interesting guy.
Absolutely.
There's a certain level of characteristic that this person is not only, you know, quite an offshoot of your standard, but the likability of them is that they're personable and they're true to what they are. And you're not only resonating that in your art, but you as an artist is the same way. There's a level of vulnerability that comes with that. And
but there also is a level of hate that comes with it.
It's a huge risk.
Right?
Right.
Because you have those people out there that say, for instance, in the 30s and the 40s, circuses was going around. They had freak shows and things of that nature. And these people were proud because they were getting paid for their difference, right? Mm-hmm. And their self-expression, whether it was the motherfucker that was tattooed like a snake or one had a deformity, it didn't matter because they were getting paid. And then you had these social justice warriors who were screaming, yeah, but you're using them as your entertainment. Yeah, but they're getting paid.
But that was them owning it to a degree. You know, it's
right.
like out in the streets that, you know, them being mocked and ridiculed, that is, you know, the ugly side. Whenever someone takes control, I guess, of their, you know, uses, you know, to a degree, everyone uses their pain, I guess, to their benefit in any realm of work or study sometimes, you know, if you're using it properly. You know, I think the images that I make, it's just as much talking about maybe like wondering about what it is to be, as much as it's maybe not feeling like you really should exist at the same time, like feeling excluded or individual in an you know, in an ostracized way.
I just love looking at something though and thinking, what was this motherfucker thinking, and what kind of drugs was he on?
It's man, that's not.
And I'm not pointing any fingers at anyone in this room because so many fingers would be pointing right back at me. I'm just saying kudos to you on that.
There's inspiration.
You got to have some, I guess, some temporal adventure in you.
It's a catalyst.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just sets it off. That's
But on the bayou, it's hard to find artists that are actually doing shit. You know, like actual artists that are trying to push past the mundane of just, you know, I find even in the quarter, it's like you go out there and they have their art set up. And I've been out there one or two times over a span of years, and sometimes it's the same artist. And I understand they're making some change out there. I get it. Mm-hmm. But it's how far past that could you really push that if you tried to reach more people and to have more people know who you are and what your story is. If you can have a piece of art all day, but if you don't know the story behind the artist and what pain brought them there at some point, and it doesn't have to be immediate. I know everybody has their process, but if you don't know what it is at some point, you got to kind of wonder, what is it really worth, right? Because I want to know what was bled out in anything that was made. I find that if you look back through time, bands in history who have had adversity, band members die unexpectedly young age and they have to replace somebody, and that replacement in that band took them off to better things than they could have ever imagined because of that. Not saying that the guy should have died, but, you know, forces of nature took these things and lined them up. It just makes a connection to people, and I feel like people feed on those type of things because people that don't have an artsy soul feed on people that do, and it's hard for the artist side of us, any of us, the musicians, the directors, the painters, the drawers, any spectrum of it, right? It's hard to let yourself go to everyone else and let them be a part of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Is the struggle imminent for you in that too, or?
I think I just started understanding that aspect of myself. Like for a while, I always felt like I needed to be better before I could share.
You set that bar for yourself before you debuted, in other words.
Well, I was never wanted to be seen in such a fledgling state, if that makes any sense. Like I didn't want, I wanted work that you could immediately feel to a degree that if it's there, there's some form of, you know, something like a deep concept or, you know, feeling you could resonate with, you know. I feel the work got to the point where, and it was after graduating, you know, from college the second time, getting my BFA in printmaking, that medium just required an extreme ability in draftsmanship. You know, you needed to have a high skill level in draftsmanship to really kind of benefit in that arena. So,
and that's a really different aspect to that whole side of the business too, because you're not necessarily a draftsman if you're an artist, or if you're just drawing from creativity. That's a whole different skill set on its own. So being able to learn that to a point where you could be a printmaker, it's a high threshold of difference compared to
that's in anything though. That's just in different art styles. You can have someone that draws with pencil only, and they draw this type of art, and you say, well, draw me this, and they can't.
No,
because that's not in their wheelhouse, and it's something as minute as just that little thing, from anime to cartoon, more cartoony, to caricature, to someone who can think of something out of their head and just put it on paper, to someone who has to look at something in order to get the inspiration from it.
Right.
You know? I think it's amazing how, you know, you watch these cats on TV, the Bob Ross types, who can see something in the background and sit there and paint it. That's amazing to me. You know, it's like, how do you fucking do that? How do you understand how you layer those things? And then at one point, I realized that it's no different than any other artistic profile, because all you're doing is layering parts of your soul on top of yourself so that everyone can see it.
that's a good way to put it.
it is. And it's, I mean, with any process, it's going from large to small. You know, it's building generally, and then I guess refining as you go along, you know, like, because whenever I'll start stuff, I don't necessarily have an idea. I'm just like, I'll sketch or I'll mess around with shapes, and then as I go, I start feeling what I'm actually talking about.
Yeah, I can absolutely relate, because, like, let's say if we're writing a track and I start with a drum beat and I lay a guitar piece on, then decide to do a second guitar part, there's often times where I'll take out the first and use the second layer to build the whole song around. It was just an ends to a means, and there's your layers. Because, man, exactly like a Bob Ross painting, not only is it procedurally done, so you almost doing it as a mechanical way at when you do it that much, right? But he does the same process every single time, and that's how that medium is created. And I think, like you said, every artist has that process to layer, and there are certain points where how you deal with those layers is kind of what defines your style, right? So if you decide to have layer one a particular way, your pencil lines, they may not necessarily even stay on the page by the final piece. It's just the ends to the means. And I always found that was fascinating, and I realized that on this show, that whenever we'd have a guest in that had an approach to art that they've been doing for years and just really been honing their craft, it, like Cody said, it's really the same procedural way of getting what your piece out of what you're trying to do, which is fascinating.
We've kind of had a trend in the second season of artists who have been on the show, and in one way or another, and their goal is to make people understand that people from the Bayou are brilliant, because the media has downplayed us so much in what we could actually do.
Yeah.
And it's the media, it's true. I started to think about what Dre said and what Kyle Crosby said, that our grandparents were beaten when they were children for speaking Cajun French, and they didn't pass that on to us because they were taught and that was illiterate, and culturally throughout the nation, they've tried to push that out of us. Mm-hmm. And in some ways, I feel like artists in the region are more withheld because of that stigma that we've always had, where in other parts of the country, you can be dog shit talentless, and because you have a certain look about you, you'll get money. And people need to understand, we talk about it on this show a lot, some of the best musicians that you'll find come from the bayou. Some of the best artists you find will come from the bayou. Now, unfortunately, these artists go on to die with no one ever knowing who the fuck they are.
Yeah.
Which is super disturbing to me. Mm-hmm.
They get lost on the grind that is social media, and that's not the only way to get a fan base, but is the easiest access to. But everyone else has that same access, so it's a fucking struggle to keep someone's attention.
Yep.
And you're right, and I think a lot of those things, like artists on the bayou, again, have a lot of repressed emotion built in there because they weren't like other people. I mean, that was one of the first conversations me and Raine had right away whenever I reached out was, man, we're still on the same grind we were before, and I know a handful of people that are trying to do that same thing that are our age, you know.
Exactly. It was very, creatively isolated.
Right. It almost felt like kids like us were the weird kids because we didn't associate as much with everyone else and what they were doing and living their Cajun lifestyle.
It's true.
We didn't really get that right away. I appreciate it now, but as a younger kid, I was in my own world, and that's why I was that weird kid.
That we were weird as children, and we thought that everybody's outlook on us was that we were weird, and that we needed to segregate ourselves and be reclusive.
Right.
Well, when I was a kid,
I had people that loved me, and I was like, why? Like, leave me alone. I don't know why you want to hang out. I just don't want to be around.
Self-worth is a thing that you don't have when you're in that mindset.
Oh yeah, especially creative self-worth for sure. It's
that was a huge struggle.
Yeah, work more likely to be ripped up and thrown away than admired for sure.
Correct. There's like pieces of that puzzle that I feel like brought us to where we are creatively now, though, which is fucking really cool to think about. You've used, like you said, that pain in a way that benefits you. And I think the artist's struggle is how to make that pain work for you. And we grew up in a really, a repressed culture of being an outside thinker. You kind of wanted to follow the cookie cutter thing. And that approach has built momentum that we didn't even know at that time.
The amazing thing is, to me, is that here we are in our 30s, I'm pushing 40, and our parents, who kind of let all of those Cajun heritage traditions, just wives' tales, all these things go in our childhood, just let it go. And now we're finding it again, and we have this rebirth of it, but our parents are proud of us for it. And that's how I know that we're doing the right thing, because his mom is the same as my mom, super stoked that we're actually doing what we're doing with the message that we have. And it's more time now than ever for people to know who we are. And that's our goal here too with you, is just to let everyone know exactly what you're doing, when you're doing it, because there's no reason for your artwork to stay dormant. Because it's freaking badass.
We love
Appreciate
it.
it. Thanks,
love
guys.
It's awesome. It's awesome. I love it.
And it's so cool because I could look at a piece that
I
you've
get
done.
high as fuck, bro, and I'll get lost in Instagram. I'm just scrolling like,
Yeah.
oh man.
Yeah, I have my moments too.
Yeah.
I like that I could look at it and know it's one of your pieces. And
Oh, immediately. I don't have to know. I don't have to get a notification.
Right.
It can pop up on Instagram. I'm like, That's Raine's artwork. I know it. And that's another thing we love, too, is people that stand out that are a cut above. There's a lot of copycat artists out there. There's photographers in this area that have stolen other photographers' gigs, their total feel, and all this other shit, trying to be somebody else. But then you get people, that's why I love DL Media with Dave LeBlanc, because you look at his shit and you're like, oh, I know that's a Dave LeBlanc photo.
Yep.
Because of the tones of it. And it's the same thing with your shit, dude. You just know. Just know.
Yeah, it's it's really a great. You don't know where you're going in art ever. Like, you don't know where the end result is. You know, you just hope you could be better than you were like the day before. You know, practice and work at it. But it's over time. You know, to find. I think I've reached some form of a style, and it feels really good. You know, it's like it's. Honestly, it's one of the things I'm more proud of that I've done in my life. It's great.
When would you say that happened?
I think it was within like the past 3 or 4 years, I'd say, where I developed something that I felt was like a certain feeling of me that kind of would pour out, like and kind of things that I've kind of always wanted to draw since I was a kid, you know, or imagine or impart, you know, into something, those feelings. So it's...
Does it come to you to where you're just like, you have this idea and you just have to get it on paper, or do you just kind of think about, hey, I'm going to draw something soon? And
well, yeah, it is kind of like that, where I'll just start sketching, or you know, whether it's digital or painting or drawing or sculpting or whatever. I'll just have these I'll just start messing.
You got an iPad Pro?
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
like
great.
That?
Yeah, it's great. It's like so great for like popping out like images with color, you know, really quick. Because I like painting, but it's like quick to. You don't have to like organize your acrylic or oils, you know,
Right.
working on the iPad.
Right.
You don't have to clean brushes.
I mean, we're not sponsored by iPad, and we wouldn't be mad if we were, but I'm just saying,
it's creatively
the
viable.
iPad Pro is super,
and you could do
stellar.
some 3D stuff on it now,
Yeah.
which is great. It's really cool.
I need to play around in 3D.
Yeah,
Yeah, you do.
It's worth it.
Yeah, because you're good. Tyler's good too, people. Yeah, I don't know about if you look at any of our artwork, artsy fartsy bullshit that we have anywhere on our stuff, that's all Tyler, from the logo to the go-go. So whatever that means.
Well, I do get my boots at Boots Plus from them. And
the furry ones? The boots with the fur?
you weren't supposed to see pictures of those, dude. What the fuck? Yeah, man. It is really awesome. And I feel like...
It's sad to see local artists that are dying off, man, because they got this old dude down the bayou. He lives in Matthews, bruh. He makes full-blown Cypress dildos, bab. And my ex-old lady, Pilu, she used to go over there. And let me tell you something. If you got one of his dildos, you never get a fucking splinter.
A Boscado.
Yeah. You heard of him.
Yeah, Boscados, yeah.
Thanks again for listening to the Dank Swamp Rebellion. Tune in Saturday for part 2 with Raine Curole, where we dive deeper into the vividness of your brainscape.